Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And yes, we are bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Friday, February 24th, 2017. We've got an awesome 10-game slate following up last night's 6-game slate. And much like yesterday, today we are going to have to play a little bit of that waiting game. Not with everybody. There's 10 games, a lot to choose from. But we did see a few significant trades, such as Taj Gibson getting traded from the Bulls to Oklahoma City. We don't know if Taj is going to play today for Oklahoma City. We also don't necessarily know who's going to start for Chicago. I guess it depends on who's healthy. If Mirotic is healthy, we could expect him to work in, although I don't think he'll start. I'm assuming Bobby Portis is going to start. So we got some interesting things there. Obviously, PJ Tucker is no longer a member of the Phoenix Suns. He was traded over to Toronto. Also, we're expecting Serge Ibaka, I think, to make his to also play for Toronto. I believe it will be his Toronto debut. So we got a few things that are interesting. We saw last night, the Joker and the entire Denver team really just lay an egg against Sacramento. And it's just fitting. It's fitting that Sacramento would, in everybody's eyes, and my eyes too, they got ripped off for Boogie. They got basically nothing. And everybody's thinking, oh, they're terrible. I heard everybody all day talking about how the line was weird, and they couldn't believe that, including myself. I felt the same way. They couldn't believe that Denver was only favored by 7, and we saw why we don't question Vegas. We saw that they knew something that apparently we didn't, or they saw something coming, or they had a feeling or something, because Sacramento ended up beating them up pretty good for most of the game. And it was definitely interesting. I think Joker picked it up a little bit at the end, but I know a lot of people were disappointed in the effort he put out. I did not play him in cash. I didn't win either. I didn't have a good day. I didn't I didn't win. I didn't lose that much. For one, I didn't play a lot. I took my own advice and I said that there was too much uncertainty in this slate. So take it light. The one guy that I had 100% of that did do well was Willie Cauley-Stein, but obviously the entire world had him, so you weren't really getting an edge by having him. You were just not falling behind by not having him. And that's some of what we always talk about here, about how sometimes these slates kind of tell you who to play, right? Like they tell you who to play. And we did find out late that I talked about Nurkic a little bit. And I had mentioned if he started, he would be a solid play. He did phenomenal for his price. He was super cheap, and you have to keep an eye on that. If he's going to be their main 5, you're going to have to keep an eye and see if he's starting. If his price doesn't go up, which in my opinion is eventually his price is going to go up. I think he's somebody that if his minutes get more consistent and he starts playing closer to that 30-minute range, I think he's a guy that we can expect to be priced up at least in the 5s, if not the 6s. So we got to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on his price, see where it goes. But if you get an opportunity like last night where he was starting, he was dirt cheap, and he had a phenomenal matchup against a Magic team that's one of the worst DVP teams against centers, you got to hop on it. I didn't play him as much as I should have, but I did play him. He didn't make my cash games, which was unfortunate because I ended up going with Etuan Moore, Willie Cauley-Stein, and what's his name? Tyreke Evans, who did nothing. So that wasn't exactly, Tyreek wasn't exactly, he didn't exactly come through like everybody thought. Now, the only positive from that is in my cash games, Tyreke Evans and Willie Cauley-Stein were both heavily owned. So Tyreek didn't hurt me all that much because a lot of other people had him. But it was an interesting night. We saw guys like Kemba Walker is a guy that I think a lot of people just forgot about. I know some people were touting him, but a lot of people seem to have forgotten about some of those guys. Like KCP was dirt cheap, and I didn't play KCP. I didn't like his matchup with Batum, but he came through. I think he had just under 50 DraftKings points, which is phenomenal. He was extremely cheap for him. We've seen his price vary throughout the year, but he had a great game. Kemba Walker put up, I think, 57 DraftKings points, so he had a great game. Derrick Rose completely crapped the bed, and it just confirms my desire. I don't know if some of you who saw my Periscope the other day or my Twitter Live, whatever it's called. I wanted Rose gone. I wanted Rose gone specifically for Rubio, and they didn't make it happen. So screw you, Phil. Yeah. But yeah, last night was certainly interesting, and tonight is going to be interesting too. We got even more games going on. A couple teams are playing their back ends of a back-to-back, and we have some more trade info. The one that I didn't talk about yet was Nerlens Noel. going to Dallas. I mentioned that Yogi is going to be the guy, and Yogi's somebody I really like today, but we'll talk about that later. Um, but but yeah, I think that Nerlens Noel, this is a perfect setup for him. It's just a matter of how much will he play today. We don't know. We don't know. For one, we don't know if he's going to have a minutes limit like he kind of did at Philly. I don't know if it was publicized as his minutes limit, but if you look, even in games where they didn't have Okafor or what's his name, even in games where they didn't have Okafor or what's his name, Embiid, of course, I gotta forget to go to Embiid, right? But he still didn't really crack 30 minutes very often. Sometimes he did, but a lot of times he didn't. So I wonder if there's obviously he's someone that has had trouble with injuries in the past. So I wonder if that was the reasoning for that. But it's gonna be interesting to see if he gets some run. I think he's a great fit for this Dallas team. Um, they got even better defensively. Dallas was already one of the top defensive teams, and they just got even better. Now they got Harry Barnes, who's a solid defender. They do have now. I think that at point guard they're going to take a little step back because I don't think Yogi's all that great of a defender, at least not yet. He is a rookie, but so I think at point guard they might have taken a little step back in that department. But I guess they could always stick like a Wesley Matthews on him. Not that he's the best defender either, but um, Yogi is also he's small. He's small also. So um, either way, that game in general has a low total today. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think Noel is going to be happier there. I think he'll have more usage there. We should see him take over the five. I don't know about today. We'll have to pay attention, but I would assume he's going to take over the five, of course. They'll put Dirk back at the four where he belongs, put Harry Barnes back at the three where he belongs, and obviously Wesley Matthews at the two with Seth Curry rotating, and hopefully Yogi Ferrell gets some serious run because I'd love to see that go down. Um, yeah, so a lot of things to talk about. So we're going to go position by position today just because the injuries are kind of up in the air, and it was a little confusing with some of these teams not knowing. We know like guys like Cantor, for instance, Cantor's expected to be back, but we don't know for sure if he's going to play. So instead of starting with the injuries like we normally do, we're just going to go position by position and talk about some of the guys that are going today. So starting with point guard, obviously Russell Westbrook, who is priced at 13K. You're not exactly getting a discount with Westy today. He's super expensive. And I get it. He's got to match up with the Lakers, one of the worst teams in the league defensively, one of the worst teams in the league against point guards. And on top of that, I believe Westbrook, I believe he's home today. So that would kind of give you an idea right there of why he's priced. So I mean, he's Westbrook. Do you really need an explanation as to why he's so expensive? He's Russell Westbrook. I mean, I'm just so yeah. So I think that's certainly interesting. It's going to be tough because even though there's guys that should be value on the slate, DraftKings seems to have already adjusted to a lot of this trade news, and they're not as cheap as you would expect them to be. So, for instance, Jahlil Okafor, who I think seems like a solid play on paper, considering the fact that they just dumped Embiid is still hurt, and they dumped their other good center. I would think that Okafor is in line to get at least 30 minutes. And rather than being in the fours where he has been for most of the season, all of a sudden he's priced up to 5.2. So that's just one example. So I think value is going to be a little harder today. So it might be harder to get a guy like Westbrook. Now, there is blowout potential here. However, until Taj Gibson's on the team, we don't know if he's going to play. We don't know how much he's going to play if he does play. I think McDermott got sent over there. We don't know if McDermott's going to play. We don't know how much he's going to play. So there's still some things up in the air with this game too even. But just going from what we know Cantor's coming back. So even though Adams is still in a phenomenal spot, I think he does lose a little bit of his cash game value because he's not exactly secure. I still like Adams personally. I'm not telling you not to play Adams. I like him. I think he's in a phenomenal matchup against the Lakers. I really do. But I do think that it's necessary to just keep that in mind with Oklahoma City, at least in this contest. So, it's almost like the season restarted. You're going to have to wait a little bit and kind of see what these teams' new habits are. Now, some of these teams didn't make any changes, and you kind of know the drill. Like with Cleveland last night, I think we all kind of knew the drill. LeBron and Kyrie. LeBron's going to play against one of his buddies. He's at home, so he was a solid play yesterday. But yeah, I mean that's the gist of it more or less. So Westbrook, I think, unless value opens up later, which I don't know, it could. I don't see how or where because we just came back from a week-long break, and most of these teams haven't played yet since returning from the break. So we don't know for sure. But if there is, then perhaps Westbrook will be more popular, but I don't think Westbrook's going to be too popular for the reasons I just said. Even though the total is super high, he is 13,000 on DraftKings, which is even on FanDuel he's 12.7. So he's super expensive on both sites, rightfully so. Again, I'm not complaining. I understand it, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of value to go with to be able to easily fit him in today. Um, and we'll talk about some of the positions going forward. But anyway, um, yeah, so I think Westbrook makes for a phenomenal GPP play today just because I do think it's a situation where he can dominate, and I think he will be lower owned than a guy like Westbrook should be, even at 13K. Let's see. So we got IT. Oh, so obviously we got John Wall against Philly. He's going to have some defense with McConnell, and I'm not sure what the status is of Ben Simmons. I'll be very, very interested to see when he comes back. I'm sure he'll have some kind of minutes limit when he does come back. They're going to want to take it easy with him. But I think that, I'm not too crazy about Wall in this spot at 10-1. I think I like Beal a little bit better, but we'll talk about him. Anyway, you got Giannis against Utah. I'm not going near Giannis. He's 9.6, which is tempting. It's nice to see him under 10K, and he's obviously got the small forward eligibility. But he's in such a horrible matchup with Utah. They play so slow, and they're also a pretty good defensive team. I think most of their good defense comes from the fact that they do play so slow. And I think we've got a super low total. I'm looking for it right now. Yeah, okay, so we got a total of 200. Looks like it opened at 200.5, and now it's 201.5. So it's a close spread, so I think this game will stay close. But I'm just not crazy about that total, and I don't like talking to guys against Utah. I don't think that's such a shame, at least especially not in cash. And GPPs, if you want to take a shot, I don't see the merit in it. But if you want to do that because you think he'll be low owned, he definitely will be low owned. So be my guest. IT2 has a matchup with Toronto. I think this is going to be a pretty good game. These are two of the two teams that should most definitely make it to the playoffs without a problem. Two of the contenders. I don't think either of them are quite ready to compete with Cleveland. I think Toronto made some moves that made them better for sure. Boston obviously stayed stagnant. They didn't make any moves. And so I don't think that they're going to be, had they gotten a Jimmy Butler or a Paul George, I think they could have at least given Cleveland a run for their money. As we've seen, Cleveland does have some weaknesses this year. But without making any moves, they're just not good enough to do it. But either way, IT2 is 9K, and Bradley, from what I understand, Bradley is still out. So that means that IT2 is going to continue his reign of usage terror. And at 9K, I think his price did come down a little bit. He's got a matchup with Kyle Lowry, who he's not the worst defender, but he's not exactly the best either. So I don't mind taking a guy like IT2 against him. Right under him, we have Kyle Lowry, who's going against him at 84. I do like Kyle Lowry a lot against IT2, and I like Lowry in this situation with DeRozan back. And the reason is because now that DeRozan's back, they'll have to stick their good defenders on DeRozan, who will, for instance, what we've seen them do is whenever there's a good point guard matched up with Isaiah, they've been putting Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown or just Crowder even sometimes. They've been taking their better defenders and putting them on the point guard and swapping Isaiah Thomas over to the shooting guard. In this situation with DeRozan back, they can't really do that because DeRozan is supposedly a better scorer than Lowry. So I would imagine that means this Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown or whatever defender they want to put on that good point guard is going to have to cover DeRozan instead because they actually do have a 2 that's dominant. So I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I guess what they could do is put Crowder on DeRozan and then put Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown on Lowry. That would open up things for the 3 like DeMarre Carroll. That would open up something like that. But that's an option. I just don't think they're going to do that. So if for any reason Lowry finds himself in a matchup with Isaiah Thomas, I think he's a phenomenal play, even with DeRozan, even with Ibaka. I think he's a solid play, 84. But again, there's some uncertainty there. Ibaka's a guy that did soak up a decent amount of usage over at the Magic. Granted, they're a different team. They're a bad team. But we don't know how heavily involved he's going to be in this Toronto offense. He has had a week to communicate with these guys, talk to these guys, get a feel for these guys. He's had a couple practices with them. So we don't know just yet what they're going to do. We don't know if Ibaka knows the system well enough to get a full run. We don't know. A lot of things we don't know. But I think Lowry is in a pretty good spot as usual. I love Lowry personally, so I could be a little biased. But I think it's in a great spot, bottom line. Let's see. Chris Paul is expected to be out. We know he was cleared medically, and I said yesterday I didn't think he would play, and I'm not surprised. I sure definitely don't think he's going to play today against San Antonio either. So we'll keep an eye on that. But he is 8K, so when he does play, hopefully his price stays around there because I'd love to get him at a discount. Mike Conley, 7,500 against Indiana. He's on the road. He's in a phenomenal matchup here. I do like Conley a lot. He's been a little wishy-washy. He's been a little inconsistent lately. He's burned a lot of people lately. He's been in some phenomenal spots, and I've done nothing with him. But we've also seen him, in the phenomenal spots and crush it. So we saw him put up against New Orleans. He completely dudded. It was 27 DraftKings points, and he was 7,500, just like he is today. But before that, against Brooklyn, 44.75 on 77. Golden State, 46.75 on 73. He seems to play well against Golden State. But then against Phoenix, where I think everybody kind of expected him to do really well, the game ended up being a blowout. He only got 31 minutes, and he put up 34.5. So, yeah, he's not exactly, I don't know if he's cash safe today, even though I do love his matchup. One of the places I love to attack Indiana is at the point guard. As much as I think Jeff Teague is phenomenal, a lot of people get caught up in some of these good offensive players, and they kind of forget how bad they are defensively, and Teague is one of those guys. He's not very good defensively, at least not in my opinion, and so I think Conley's in a pretty good spot today, 7,500. But for me, it'll be definitely more of a GPP play for sure. Jeff Teague at 7K. I like his price. I like the way he's been playing. Don't like his matchup. It's a pace down spot. I just don't see on a 10-game slate why go there. Not when you got guys like right under him, Goran Dragic at 6,800, in a matchup against Atlanta, who has been playing at a faster pace this season, and a spot where they've been terrible against both types of guards, shooting guards and point guards. Now, I think Fabo Cephalosha is supposed to be back, so I'm not really into Hardaway. I think he's priced to be a guy getting 30-plus minutes, and I don't necessarily know that he's a lock for those minutes with Fabo back. Fabo's one of their better defenders, so they have missed him, and I do believe they will use him, especially in this matchup when you got guys like Goran Dragic, Dion Waiters, not to mention Josh Richardson is also coming back, who before he got hurt, he kind of finally found his place in this team. Now, granted, Dion Waiters was out, but he was chucking. He was starting to chuck a little bit. So they got a few guys that could score. Obviously, got Hassan Whiteside, of course, too. So I do think Dragic. I would definitely prefer Dragic over Teague. That's just my point. I don't see a situation where you would want to take a chance on a guy like Teague. Let's see. Jameer Nelson at 67. We know he's been announced as the starter. However, Moutier is healthy enough to play. So that I do have some concerns there. Don't get me wrong. It's a phenomenal matchup. But Jameer Nelson's a little older. It's on the back end of a back-to-back. His team did just get beat up last night. I don't know what the final score of that game was, but I ended up falling asleep. I'm on the East Coast, so it got kind of late for me. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm a little curious. I'm gonna look it up right now, just because, like I said, I'm curious to see what the final result was. Okay, Denver lost by 16, so they didn't come back. They got their rear ends handed to them. So I think Nelson's too expensive for me at 6,700. Maybe in GPPs, I guess. You got D'Angelo Russell at 6'6" is interesting. I think Ricky Rubio at 6'5" is very interesting against Yogi, but it's a pace down spot. He's 65. I would rather play Yogi at 53 just because he's cheaper. But the game in general, it's one of the lower totals. Dallas is a pretty good defensive team, and they play slow. I do think that one of their weaknesses will be at the point guard with Yogi there. But I'm not necessarily rushing to play Rubio today. You know what I'm saying? I think that there's just a lot of other options for even George Hill at 61. I would rather play George Hill at 61 than play Rubio at 65. Now, with that said, I'm not telling you to forget. I'm talking more cash games, but Rubio has, aside from his game against Denver, which was surprising that he played so bad against Denver. Before that, he was on a streak of putting up 40-plus points, 3 straight 40-plus DraftKings points games. So I think Rubio kind of found his stroke. Obviously, I'm sure he heard all the rumors, and I'm sure he was a little concerned that he might get traded or whatever. But he didn't, and he's still here. So I think that he's worth considering at the end of the day. I did skip over a couple people. One particularly that I skipped over, I think, let's see, Bledsoe at 8.5. Bledsoe's in a phenomenal matchup against Chicago. Now, Chicago is one of the slower-paced teams in the league, but the good thing about the Suns is they only have a couple guys that really produce. So we kind of know where that production is coming from. Kind of like how Toronto used to be. And I say used to be because now they have Ibaka. So it's a third guy to kind of share in those points there. But yeah, I think Bledsoe at 8.5. I think his coach said he was exhausted. His coach said he was tired. Well, he had a break. So if he was really just tired, we should see today. I think he's a phenomenal GPP play, 8.5. And he's in a matchup against a team that doesn't really have a true point guard. And even the point guards that they do have, they're all terrible defensively. So I think that the total is nice. The total is really solid for a Chicago game. It's one of the higher totals on the board tonight. It's up there. And like I said, I don't see anybody in Chicago who's going to stop him unless they want to put Butler on him, which I don't think they'll do. If they do that, it's going to open up things for T.J. Warren, who I also think is in a phenomenal spot. Now that Tucker's gone, you can look at Warren to soak up some of those minutes at the 3 all day long. And I think Marquise Chris even, he's going to get more run at the 4 all day long. So I do think that sending P.J. Tucker away to Toronto does open some things up for the Phoenix DFS-wise. Now, did they become a better team by dumping one of their better defenders? No. But in DFS purposes, it means more minutes for some of their other scorers. So I definitely think it's interesting. Let's see. We talked about D'Angelo Russell at 6.6. We've seen guys have success against Russell Westbrook. It's been a common trend. So I wouldn't put him in my cash games, no way. But in GPPs, he's interesting. I'll say that. He's interesting. Obviously, the Bulls got Cameron Artis-Payne. I don't know if he's going to play, and even if he plays, I don't know how much. They got a pretty crowded guard situation there, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But even if he does play, he's not somebody I want today. He's going to take him some time to develop, going to take him some time. He's used to backing up Russell Westbrook and not playing much, and even when he has backed up Russell Westbrook this season, he hasn't looked good, so it's another one of those wait-and-see approaches, you know what I mean? Moving on to shooting guard, I think Jimmy Butler's a phenomenal play at 9.4. He didn't get traded. He's here. He's got a matchup against Phoenix, and P.J. Tucker is gone. So I think there's really nobody there to stop Butler. So I think Butler's a great play. He's expensive at 9.4, but I think he's well worth it today in his matchup. Will Barton at 7.6 against Brooklyn. It's a phenomenal matchup. Great GPP play. He's no longer a cash play to me because he's no longer in that starting lineup. And aside from that, more guys are healthy. So he's not the only guy coming off the bench that could score. So I don't think I'm going to be too big on Barton, except for maybe some GPP exposure. Dwayne Wade, also a phenomenal play at 7.2 against Phoenix. I think he's a little expensive, but he's rested. And like I said, the spread is not as it doesn't really indicate that it's going to be too much of a blowout. It seems to be that they seem to think this game will be fairly close, at least for most of the game. So I do think that Wade is in a good spot against Booker. I'm not afraid of Booker defense. I do like Butler more, but I think that Wade is certainly in play also against Phoenix. I like that game. I do. Maybe more for GPPs, but I do like it. Anyway, Bradley Beal at 7.1 I think is interesting. Philly's been pretty good against shooting guards all year, but lately they've been kind of getting taxed by these guys. We saw Batum kind of tear him up. We've been seeing some of these shooting guards tear him up, so I think Beal's interesting. I'd rather play Beal over Wall, just to give you some perspective of how I'm thinking. Dion Waiters at 6.9. You know I like to play Waiters. You know he's going to keep chucking, so I like him. However, Josh Richardson is back, so I'm a little concerned of how the minutes are going to go now that they're a little more healthy. So you got to figure they got Tyler Johnson. They got Josh Richardson. They still got Magruder, Wayne Ellington. So they got all these guys they're going to have to fit in. So I'm a little concerned. I don't think it's going to affect him and Dragic's minutes too much. I think they'd rather play with the three, kind of move them in and out. I think they should move Waiters to the 3 and then just swap out those shooting guards personally. But that is, that's just my opinion. But I think Waiters is interesting. But I want to see what's going on with Richardson. If Richardson's going to get a significant amount of playing time, that could affect him. So I'm going to have to take a wait and see approach. I might not feel safe blocking him in cash. But the matchup is phenomenal. Now, if Thabo is supposed to be back, if Thabo is back, I would assume Thabo is going to cover Waiters, which could make things rough. If that is the case, then I think Dragic becomes a pretty solid play. Booker at 6.7 is interesting. I'm not afraid of him against Wade. From the Phoenix Suns side, kind of where it's going to come from. It's going to come from Bledsoe and Booker. T.J. Warren, don't get me wrong. Don't sleep on T.J. Warren. Going forward, he's going to, he's a pretty good scorer. And going forward, he's going to get this run with P.J. Tucker gone. There's no more. We've seen before they would kind of, whoever the hot hand was, they'd stick with him. That's not the case. They don't have P.J. Tucker anymore. So Warren is going to play. My issue in this contest is the matchup doesn't necessarily seem to be the best because I think he's going to draw Butler. And so I definitely think that we're going to have to pay attention to that. But going forward, I think Warren's going to be an awesome play going forward. Now that we know he's going to get some run. I mean, if you want to take a shot at him in cash, if you don't think Butler's going to guard him, I can understand that, but I think Butler will. Now, it makes sense that they could decide to put Butler on the 1 because Bledsoe is obviously their biggest threat. But we don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that too. Let's see. Oladipo at 6.5. I don't think he's a bad play against the Lakers. Nick Young at 4.6. They just dumped Lou Williams, so I think Young is in for more run. Now, I will say about D'Angelo Russell, if you run the numbers, when Lou Williams is off, D'Angelo Russell's minutes and usage seem to go a little higher, so that's something to consider. But they no longer have a solid backup for Nick Young, so I think that he can get some run at 4.6 against Oklahoma City, a team that's not good defensively. Seth Curry at 4.5 is interesting against Minnesota. And obviously, I forgot to mention DeRozan at 7.8, definitely in play against Boston. But like I said, I do think I like Lowry a little better. He is more expensive. Marquise Moore for power forwards. Small forwards. Kawhi Leonard at 8.7 against the Clippers. Very good spot for Kawhi. They have not been good defensively without Paul. I'm talking about the Clippers, so I think Kawhi is interesting. Andrew Wiggins at 7.9 against Dallas. We've seen him get some mega usage ever since LaVine went down. I just don't know if this is the matchup that I want to put him in cash. And GPPs, you want to take a shot on Wiggins, I get it. He's been taking a lot of shots, playing phenomenally. But this is a tougher matchup, and he's going to have Harry Barnes on him, I think, most of the game. So I'm not really going to go there. Let's see. Gordon Hayward at 7.3 against Milwaukee, I think is interesting. So, again, with these Utah games, I don't like taking teams against Utah, but I don't mind taking Utah against some of these faster-paced teams. Hayward hasn't really been lighting it up lately, but at 7.3, I think in GPPs he's worth a shot. I think he'll be low-owned. Wilson Chandler's back, 6.9 against Brooklyn. Phenomenal spot. We saw him play. He played pretty well yesterday. I think that 6.9, I don't know what his upside is. I don't know what his ceiling is with all these guys healthy, though. That's my concern. One guy that I think everybody's going to love going forward, they're going to love him today. I love him today. I think he's going to be chalky, but in cash games, he's going to be in my cash games because I think he's still underpriced, even though he got this price bump, is Dario Saric. Anyway, he's 6.4. His price is way up, but I understand why. They got rid of Ilyasova. He's going to start at the 4. He's going to get mega minutes at the 4, and he's been playing lights out. So I really, really love him today. You can play him at small forward or power forward on DraftKings, so that's pretty cool. Keep a little flexibility there. But I love Saric. He'll definitely be in my cash games. And, what else can you say? So aside from him, also Okafor, which we'll talk about later, I think those two are just, they don't really have solid backups anymore. So I definitely like them. We talked about TJ Warren. He's only 4.6. Keep an eye on him going forward. Not necessarily in this matchup. If you want to take him in a GPP, be my guest. But just keep an eye on him going forward. Karis LeVert at 3.7. Now, they did get KJ McDaniels, but Karis LeVert is supposed to be getting more minutes now that Bogdanovich is gone. Bogdanovich was traded to the Wizards. We don't know how much he's going to do over there. I didn't really bring him up. But I think Karis LeVert, they do like this kid. I like this kid, and I think that's going to open up some opportunities for him for sure. Let's see. Power forwards. Markieff Morris at 7K is interesting against Philly. Julius Randle against Oklahoma City at 6K is interesting. Ibaka's in a phenomenal matchup against Boston. We just don't know how much he's going to play. Keep an eye on that. But the matchup itself is great. Fareed at 4.6 against Brooklyn. It's the back end of a back-to-back. We don't know how many minutes he's going to play with everybody healthy. He is from Newark, New Jersey, so this is a bit of a homecoming for him. So if he's only 4.6, so I think in GPPs, he's solid. Nerlens Noel is 5.5 on DraftKings. I would love to play him today against Cat. I really would because I think they're going to need him. But we don't know how much he's going to play. If we find out there's no minutes restriction and he's going to get a full run because he's a good defender, they want him in there against Cat, I'm going to be loading up on Nerlens today for sure. But we have to wait and see. Bobby Portis is 5K against Phoenix. Great matchup, but he hasn't been this expensive, so I'm a little hesitant. Mirotic at 4.1. We don't know if he's healthy. We don't know if he's going to play, how much he's going to play. But I guess in GPPs, if he does play, you can consider now that Taj Gibson is out. Moving on to centers, Jokic at 10.8 is a phenomenal spot against Brooklyn. What else can you say? He's the Joker. He's the GOAT. He had a bad game yesterday. Burned a lot of people. So maybe his ownership will be a little lower today. Gasol against Indiana, 7.7. Decent spot. Gobert against Milwaukee, 7.1. Phenomenal spot. I do like Gobert a bit today. But it's a pace down. It's a low total. So, that might defer me and some other people, of course. Brolo at 6.9 against Denver. He's okay, but I think Jokic could pretty much cover him everywhere. So I'm not too big on Brolo today. I think that Dwight Howard at 6.8 is a great play against Whiteside. I think he's a phenomenal play. They're going to need him in there against Whiteside. He's a very good defender. Whiteside is not a very good defender, so I do like Howard a lot. We talked about Adams at 6.4 against the Lakers. Ideal spot, phenomenal matchup, but Cantor is back. They got Taj Gibson, so we have to wait and see. 6.4 is kind of expensive for a guy that's not going to be getting those mega, 1-unit minutes. He should still see around 30 or so it could be worth it. But I think I'd prefer to put him in GPPs at this point now that Cantor's back. Unless we find out Cantor's not playing. If Cantor's not playing, I'll load up on Adams in cash games. Gortat at 6.4 against Philly against Okafor. I think he's in a solid matchup. Gortat's usually a pretty good cash guy. His price did come up. I'm not crazy about his price here. But Okafor is the only real center, Okafor and Rashawn Holmes. So I think I'm not too worried about the defense against Gortat there. Obviously, Al Horford, 6.4 against Toronto is interesting. And Okafor, we talked about a 5.2. He's the guy that right now in my cash games I'm looking at. He's 5.2. He should get mega minutes. Is he the best player? No. But at 5.2, if he puts up 30 DraftKings points, which I think he could do, then he's paying off his salary for sure. And I think that'd be fine. So that's going to do it for us on the position-by-position breakdown. This pod was a little different. Like I said, we're still waiting on some news. We're still feeling some things out. So I'm just going based off of what I see, what I think I know. And, who knows? Who knows? I don't know all the answers. I'm not always right, and I think you guys can keep track of that. You know what I mean? You guys know that. I'm human just like everybody else. So, anyway, I think it's going to be a fun slate for cash games and GPPs. We'll have to wait and see and find out some of this news to see if there's anybody else we could play. I do like Yogi today. I do like Sarge. I love Dario today. I love Dario. And I like Okafor. So those are the main guys that stand out to me. Noel, if we find out Noel is going to get a full run, I love Noel today too. But we don't know. And we're going to have to wait and see. So, anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We really, really appreciate that. I really do. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow, leave us some comments. And if you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel. Leave some reviews, bump us up those ratings. We appreciate it. If you're not a member of WiseTake.com, please sign up today. You get access to our free DFS projections, cheat sheets, all of our other tools. And we have a forums on there. It's completely free. You just have to sign up. That's all it is. But yeah, that's going to do it for us here and for Friday's podcast. So we're done for the week. We will be returning on Monday. So that's no podcast tomorrow or Sunday as usual. And we'll be back Monday. We do have a guest in mind. I'm not going to give away who it is just in case it's not confirmed. But we do have a guy coming on. Monday should be an interesting podcast. We're going to have a special guest with us. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it. But anyway, guys, it's been a blast. I'm glad to be back. We only had 2 pods before another break. But I'll take the break, right? I'll take the break. So as always, guys, good luck. Yeah.